What government cannot do, Dangote can. And he has shown it with the birth of that refinery.
What happens when you put Nigeria's economy, the stock market, Dangote Refinery, oil, investing, and African geopolitics on the same table?
Did Boko Haram emerge or it was created? Venezuela has oil. Iran has oil. Iran's brother, Iraq, also had oil. Libya also has oil. Is it a coincidence that the wars are following the resources?
You get a conversation that goes far beyond finance.
In 2022, I was involved with a transaction. It was an importation involving $24.5 million. You have to go to apply to CBN, auction of foreign exchange. Do you know the first allocation we got from CBN? The first allocation we got was $15,000.
For 24 million. My goodness.
Such was the problem that we have in the FX space of Nigeria. The things I know now, if I had known them when I was 25. The power of compounding is one of the most important things that everybody should know.
On this episode of the Frankly Business Podcast, we sat with Gbolahan Olojede, who's the Group Managing Director of Bancorp Securities and one of Nigeria's foremost financial analysts.
It is not a coincidence that the richest people in the world have a chunk of their wealth in stock.
We talk about the pain of economic reforms.
There was no provision for subsidy in the law.
So it was illegal.
How ordinary Nigerians can invest.
This 10,000 or this 20,000 goes into investment every month.
The opportunities in the stock market.
In the midst of all this, one area where people made money was the stock market.
The rise of Dangote Refinery.
What government cannot do, Dangote can.
And why Africa needs to start thinking beyond the next election cycle.
Countries are thinking 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. We are thinking 4 years election cycle. To compete with that level of thinking in those other countries will take a while.
Because understanding money is important. But understanding the forces behind money is much more important.
Investing is first a culture before it becomes a function of how much you earn.
This is the Frankly Business Podcast. Welcome.
You've been in the financial world for like decades, and as someone who runs an asset management company, you play heavily in the financial space. I just want to ask you a question that relates to every Nigerian.
Okay.
Somebody earning 200,000 naira a month in this present day Nigeria, do you think how do you think they can survive? Do you think they can survive this current economy?
It's going to be a bit challenging. But you see, we also need to understand the concept of income in Nigeria vis-a-vis the general use of the word. In societies like ours, income is not just the salary that people take. There's also what you call the transfer income. And that is why you see someone who earns 100,000 naira, he lives on the mainland, he works on the island. You're asking yourself, so how did he pay transportation for an entire week? Of course, what some of them have started to do was to leave in the office and go home only during the weekends. But that same person pays rent, he has a wife, he has children, he pays school fees. So you struggle to understand how does he do all of this? So there is a place of some element of transfer income as part of our income structure in our society. They are the fact that my driver, for example, will likely get an average of 50,000 in dash in a month. Now, when it talks about his salary, that is not part of his salary, but it is still an income. But beyond that is, the reality that 100,000 does not cut it in our economy of today. Prices of food, transportation, energy makes it impossible to live on those terms.
200,000 naira is literally it's almost 3 times our minimum wage. Minimum wage is 70,000, and 200,000 naira is like 3 times is 210.
Yes, that's approximately.
Yeah, approximately that. If you understand what is happening in the current day Nigeria with the reforms, a lot of people have talked about the reforms. They said it's necessary, and citizens are saying that they are suffering. Economic juggernauts, financial juggernauts like yourself, have been able to praise this administration in some way regarding the reforms, just to narrow it down, the reforms. How do we balance it?
It's a bit tough. Reforms come with pains. You know, it's what people, when people say you can't enjoy an omelette without breaking the egg. Reforms are typically painful things, which is why the best approach to a reform is to also look at those pains. So you literally simulate, or you look at what are the likely pain points that will emerge when this reform proceed. And what that does is that it helps you to plan, to say, okay, so when this pain starts to show, how are we going to manage it? How are we going to cushion it? If that part is not properly worked out, the pains will come and people will be left to adjust over time. And sometimes it takes a while for those adjustments to happen. So it's not as if some of the pain, you know, I was discussing with a former boss of mine yesterday. We were talking about the fact that in the last month, Dangote Refinery was the biggest provider of jet fuel to Europe. Now, when we look at the chain of events that eventually produced a Dangote, it wasn't fun for that entrepreneur, for that thing to happen. But today, what Dangote Refinery has become is helping to project Nigeria on a different platform. So you can imagine that kind of a record that in the month of May, this is what happened from a company in Nigeria. It has changed not only local production for fuel, there's also the fertilizer, the petrochemicals, and fertilizer and other petrochemicals. All those things come with pain. The same thing is what we're going to see with... Now, before I go further.
Yeah.
Now, without a PIA...
Can you explain it? I don't want to assume that a lot of people understand these things. And I would love you to, in some way, maybe break down the reforms. What were really the reforms? Because a lot of Nigerians just hear reforms. They don't understand what really happened with this administration. I know one of it was fuel subsidy removal. There's some other ones, the exchange rates. Explain the concept of the reforms.
They were actually part of the reform that started way before fuel subsidy removal. And one of it, critical one, is the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act, which unfortunately delayed for about 13 years in the system before it was eventually passed into law. Now, when we passed it into law, there were certain provisions of that act that we were struggling with. You see, this fuel subsidy removal, there have been several attempts at making it happen. OBJ tried it. We went back to subsidy. Subsequent government also did the same. And we went back to that subsidy regime. So it's a tough thing. Now, the PIA, which was a critical part of the reform, was one thing that could make it possible. But after we passed the law, we still could not implement certain part of that law. And the part we couldn't implement was the removal of that subsidy. So there was no provision for subsidy in the law.
So it was illegal. Subsidy was illegal.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Once from the point where we passed that law, subsidy became illegal. So government should not be able to provide for subsidy in its budget. But I remember vividly that the then president, when he raised the issue around removing the subsidy in line with the law that we have passed, there was a backlash. Labour vividly said, look, if you try it, we will ensure that NSAS protest
is child's
play.
Yeah.
So when you hear things like that in an election year, what did the man do? He postponed the implementation of that part of the law for 18 months, knowing very well that in that 18 months, it will be gone, election will be over. So he made a provision for only 6 months in the 2023 elections, in the 2023 budget. So kick the can down the line let the next guy pick it up from where he is. After all, that regime, in spite of all the things that were inadequacies of the regime, was a pillar of support for the Dangote refinery that we all speak about today. Without the PIB, without the support that government provided for the emergence of the Dangote refinery, it might not have happened. So the new government merely picked up from where the previous government left off in the reform chain. And where it picked up was on that inauguration day when he said, subsidy is gone. And we saw the effect in the market literally immediately. People who had fuel shut the entrance into their filling stations because they knew the prices would go up and they want to be able to sell even the stock that they had at the old price at a new stock. You can't blame them because there's replacement cost issues. If they don't step up and sell at an elevated price, then by the time they finish selling, they won't be able to buy, to restock.
Yeah, very true.
Prices will have gone up. So the replacement cost comes into play in that instance. Now, here is where I think there might have been some gaps. I don't think that we properly looked at how we were going to deal with the pains when they come. We knew we were going to remove subsidy. When we remove subsidy, that would dovetail into certain economic hardship. So what provisions did we have to deal with that economic hardship? I don't think that was a robust, and that was why the pain really went deep into the environment. This was further complicated by another major reform.
Which was?
Which was the attempted unification of the exchange rate. We ran a country where there were multiple exchange rates across several points of negotiation of FX. There is a rate for this, there is a rate for that, there is a rate for this. In 2022, I was involved with a transaction. It was an importation involving $24.5 million transaction. And what happened was, of course, after we've done the importation, you have to go to apply to CBN, auction of foreign exchange and the rest.
Yeah.
Do you know the first allocation we got from CBN? The first allocation we got was $15,000.
For 24 million.
That was exactly what we got.
My goodness.
Yeah. So you wait for the periodic auction, maybe every fortnight or something.
Yeah.
And then you're waiting. You had an application for 24.5 million, and you got a 15,000 allocation. Such was the problem that we have in the FX space of Nigeria. We were living a lie. We were living in a bubble, saying that this is our exchange rate. It wasn't the exchange rate. Everybody who was in the market in those seasons know that what the CBN says is the rate, or was the rate, was not the rate. And we had a pile-up of obligations on the CBN window. I think it was said to be up to about $5 billion that we could not meet. So people were, importing, they couldn't pay. If you remember, at some point, we had a problem with some airlines who said, when I'm leaving this place.
Very true, very true.
We had
Emirates.
even IATA had to wade in at some point. Now, look, we come here, we do business, we can't repatriate, there was no dollar. So we were living a lie that we had all these things and that this is the rate. But in the real sense, it was a false rate. So I think it was part of the eagerness of the government to say, look, while the first subsidy was still hot, let's also put this one in. And, but it was a bad cocktail because the effect on the people was very harsh. The effect on the economy was extremely harsh. I still remember vividly the financial statement of corporates in 2023. If you look at the listed corporate, because, for listed corporate, they are published, so you can see what the numbers are.
Very true, public companies.
It was horrible. It was horrible. We had multinationals, huge organizations in this country that made their first losses in that year.
MTN was one of those.
MTN was one of them.
Yeah.
You had organizations like Nestle. Nestle literally had its entire capital wiped out. The same with MTN. It turned into a negative capital. That was how harsh 2023 was, by virtue of the combination of fuel subsidy removal and an attempt to unify, which was literally a depreciation of the naira. Anyway, massive depreciation of the naira. Mind you, some people made money.
Explain that part, because we've been hearing that despite the reforms, some people making a lot of money. How are they making that money? What sector? And how do you think the citizens can key into those sectors?
Okay.
What are the ways around it?
Let me start from the 2023.
Please, please do.
So you had people who had invested in dollar-denominated assets. So some people bought some Eurobonds, some of these corporate bonds that were denominated in foreign exchange. And they plugged into those investments when dollar was 400 naira to $1, maybe 450 to $1 for some of them. So when that same exchange rate went from 400 to $1, in 2023, I think we closed at about 900 naira to $1.
Yeah.
Those investments automatically more than doubled their returns. So you came in at something at 400 naira, and that same $1 that you were holding that was worth only 400 naira became 900 naira by December. They made a kill. I remember we had some Eurobond in our portfolio which we exited in December, and it was beautiful money. And I thought we made money until we saw what happened by February. By February, the dollar literally touched 1,900. That was it was a season of extreme volatility when a product could move from 500 naira to 1,900. Then after that 1,900, it started to come down, and it settled at around 1,600 naira for a while, until the second half of 2024, when we begin to see a more sustained stability of the foreign exchange. But by that time, a lot of things are damaged, and we now have to start beginning to the recovery process for the economy. And some recovery has happened indeed. But you see, we can count on the market forces to help us make those macroeconomic gains to percolate down the ladder, or we can also intervene. I am an advocate of both. Yes, we want to run a capitalist environment. Nowhere in the world do you have total capitalism anyway.
Yeah.
And market forces do fail from time to time. Therefore, reliance on market forces to help you make certain corrections may not work. So what tends to happen is a mix of the two. Yeah, market forces is there trying to help you correct certain things, to reallocate resources in a particular way. But at the same time, governments do intervene to ensure that market forces do not get hijacked, and that they will deliver what they're supposed to deliver. And they also now help to target all those intervention at the areas where the impact will be felt the most. There were certain attempts, some of them absolutely did not work, and a very good example is the CNG. Government tried to promote CNG as an alternative source of energy, and because it is much cheaper than PMS.
Yeah.
It should ordinarily have translated to a reduced or a moderated cost of transportation, but it didn't happen because people did not adopt CNG. Also, I went to do tests. I remember I have an SUV that I took to one of those centers that they should assess it. And they said, okay, they can do it for me, but I will forfeit my rear seat. I didn't want to forfeit the rear seat of that SUV, so I didn't go back there. Then there were all sort of false campaign. People presented CNG as a dangerous alternative. I still remember vividly a fire case in Edo State that was made so popular, and it scared people off. That is this what this CNG is going to be like? There was also the problem of the initial outlay for changing, getting the tank and all the rest, which was found to be a little bit too much. And people are not looking at it from the perspective of a total cost over a period of time. Rather, the focus was on that initial outlay, and there was no solution to help people deal with the initial outlay. So CNG did not catch up in Nigeria. So we continue suffering the problem that came with the fuel subsidy removal, as it were. Interestingly, in the midst of all this, one area where people made money was the stock market.
It looks like the whole reforms favored investors.
It did.
But the regular citizens are suffering. And investors are only a handful. What is the market capitalization of our entire market? Compare that with our GDP. Then that gives you an insight as to...
In fact, you nailed it.
Yeah. So
this is the reason why, if you bring up the fact that there's so much going on the stock market, people are like, what is he talking about?
Why is so much going on there? Let's even find out.
Okay. You see, the depreciation of the naira, like we said, created a lot of problem, but subsequently there was a recovery process. So people adjusted, corporates adjusted. So you have an institution like MTN who made certain adjustments. People substituted their foreign loans with naira loans. That will help them to manage the foreign exchange risk. So people did a lot of other things. There was debt conversion. There were people who had some of the debts on their book converted to equity. So as the naira started to stabilize, businesses started to recover. Because you can imagine the unpredictability of an exchange rate that moved from 500 to 1,600. But once it is now around that 1,500 bracket and it remained there, you might go to 1,520 today, you might go to 1,480 tomorrow, but it remains relatively predictable. The volatility crashed and it became predictable. The recovery process started. So you see all the companies that posted heavy losses at the end of 2023. By the time it was the end of 2024, they have started to turn profits. In fact, if you take, just using the NGX as an example, I mean, companies that are listed on the NGX, if you take the total corporate profit at the end of 2024 and you compare it with the profit at the end of 2023, you are probably going to have about 20-fold improvement in performance. Yes.
Why?
Because they started to make profit. There were massive losses. And as the foreign exchange stabilized, and they also made a lot of adjustments in their operation, in their financing, they started to make money. By the time you leave 2024 and come into 2025, it was even a much bigger success for this corporate, the large corporate at least. Now, that will reflect normally in the prices of their stock. So people who have been in some of those stocks in 2023 reaped bounty harvest in 2024. In 2024, the NGX did about 51.9% returns. In 2026 already,
61.
It was at 61, a bit of profit taking. It's still over 50 just for a few months. It's about 50, maybe about 55, 50 something right now in a few months. So the recovery, but here is why nobody is feeling that on the street. How many people are in that market? What is the volume of the retail participant in the stock market of maybe 1 million? So if something is happening with 1 million people in a population of 230 million Nigerians, it should not be surprising that the street is not feeling what is going on in that market. But it doesn't remove the fact that a lot is going on in that market.
So there's somebody watching now. I want us to segue into investment. People, I'm using the 200,000 naira because that's like more or less the average,
See that as the average
salary of a working class in Nigeria. Average. Middle class, let me put it that way, which is shrinking. How do you think, what's your best advice to a middle class person earning 200,000 naira? How do they approach investment? Sometimes these things sound very mystical, and I want us to break it down because I don't want us to talk over the heads of people. How do you approach investment? Like realistically, the person uses this to come to the office, earns 200,000 naira in a downfall, and he's just trying to think on how to invest. We're talking about the market doing crazy numbers, 51% last year, now currently 61%. It's how do they approach investment?
There's a need for a bit of education.
Yes, please.
And my advice typically is, okay, for someone who has been hearing that a lot of good stuff is happening on this stock exchange, you need to educate yourself about that stock exchange. And a good way to start is open a stock account. The truth is that you don't even need money to open an account with your stockbroker. They can open the account. When they open the account, then that is when you can say, oh, you want to do trade? Okay, bring some money to do trade. And with as little as 5,000, as little as 10,000, people, you see, Nigeria is a very interesting country. When you see how much goes into certain, including, I mean, I'm not trying to speak ill of betting, for example. Gaming is all over the world and it is business. The volume of money that goes into betting will surprise you. Yes. And some of the people who will say, I don't have money to invest, there is not enough, are in that market and they are putting money there. So, number one thing is that investing is first a culture before it becomes a function of how much you earn.
A culture.
Yes, a personal culture, which if you don't have it, you can learn it.
How do you learn
it started. To learn it is part of what I was saying with the stock market. So start by educating yourself. So if you open an account, those stockbroking houses will start to give you certain education about how the market works. They share with you research information. They share with you recommendations and the basis for those recommendations. So you begin to educate yourself. And then you step in carefully. So let me do this 10,000. So you take the 10,000, so what can I buy? And they tell you, oh, this and this are what you can buy. And because of technology, thank God for technology, most of these things are now being done on our telephones and all the rest. It's not as if you need to start going to one place to do anything. No, you do it right on your phone. You can also see what is going on right from your phone. So you can see what the market prices closed with at the end of a particular trading day. So you can see what is going on with your money. And that might just be that point where you start to see things differently. Because this thing when they talk, he be like saying real low. And that is very important. If it is just real for other people and it is not real for you, people still don't flow properly into it. But once it begins to feel real for you, things begin to change. And you find yourself now showing more interest and willing to set apart some money for investing. You know,
So
we
for
all
a
knew
200,000 naira salary,
for a 200, yes,
how many percent do you think is decent to set apart? I want us to deal with percentages. Okay, we can even deal with the amount since it's 200,000.
since it's 200,000.
Yeah.
Like I said,
In realistic terms.
in
Yeah, in
what is the
realistic
definition of
terms.
realistic terms?
Yes.
In realistic terms, is that the guy is actually going to have to close his eyes and determine that this 10,000 or this 20,000 goes into investment every month.
Okay, so 10% every month is decent
It's decent
to build that culture.
to build that culture. And once you begin to step out in that manner, there is hardly ever anybody who goes into that, especially when you go in when the market is like it is today and quite encouraging. They hardly ever go back. Rather, they begin to see some money that they've been wasting before, some consumption that they could avoid, and their orientation start to change. From that just being a consumer, consume, to beginning to say, I can also be an investor in my own little way. When I see some of the requests from retail customers sometimes, I smile, but I understand where they're coming from. And some of these retail investors,
Yeah.
it has become part of their living. In fact, they can't do without coming to the stock market to come and say, what is going on? Where can I plug money today? So they are trading and they are active. And those who want to send you requests, so you see some of those requests say, please buy me 100 units of this. The 100 units of what he wants to buy might not be more than 10,000. But he's trading and is getting some sort of excitement. For them, it is their own equivalent of betting. Someone who is doing gaming gets excitement from gaming. So I'm predicting that a match will go this way or it will go that way.
Very true.
And if it does, I win. There's an excitement around it. This is also similar in a way, just that in the case of stock,
Yes.
you're not betting against chance.
So the difference between gambling and investment is the anchor.
Correct.
One is chance, the other is what?
The other is based on reality, on companies that are playing and to which you have access to their financials. So you can see these people that this is what they are doing. And because they are listed, information about them is public. So you can find out, what are they doing? How did they do last year? What dividend did they pay last year? So you're not running blindly. You're not making a wild bet.
Let us have an open ledger.
Okay.
Company A is a toast of an investor. Looking at it, wants to do a research. What are the numbers, the exact numbers they should pay attention to based on the information that is public? What are the things they need to pay attention to?
Okay.
If those things, then what is the metric that would determine a buy, a hold, or a sell?
Okay. I always like to also talk about
Yes, please.
certain things that different categories of investors look out for.
All right, please. What are the different categories?
There are the investors who are looking at what we call the fundamentals. So when you're looking at fundamentals, you want to know the performance, the financial performance of that organization, the revenues, the profit. Then you go into things like the PE ratio,
Yeah.
which is the price earning ratio. You go into EPS, the earnings per share. You go into the dividend per share. So it tells you certain stories about that organization. And those stories help you to make a decision. Is this an organization that has, for example, a history of paying dividends? If he has a history of paying dividends, okay, because I love dividends, I want to pitch in there.
Yeah.
Is it located in a business that has great prospect? I've seen, or
The
is
industry,
it
you mean?
industry,
Yeah.
or is it a declining industry? If it's a declining industry, when you look at the fundamentals, you probably can see it. Or you look at market information about that industry. So looking at the financial performance from the revenue to the profit per share, or what you call earnings per share, and all the rest of it, you can make a decision based on the fundamentals of that institution.
So fundamentals are profit, looking at the revenue, the profits, looking at the earnings per share, how far have they gone, how long have they been paying dividend, their history of dividend payment.
All those.
And what else again for fundamentals?
The PE.
Oh, the PE.
The price earning ratio.
What is PE?
Okay. We're talking of listed companies now.
Listed companies,
So they have a price on the exchange.
Yeah.
And that price is what you call the price per share. You can also look at the earnings of those institutions and divide it by the total number of shares and get what you call earnings per share. So the price per share vis-a-vis the earnings per share tells a story about an institution. So you can look at it and say, oh, is this price that this business is priced out on the exchange, is it overpriced? Or is it underpriced? Is it reflective of the value of this business? Or is this business being undervalued? So there are people who will use that to identify an undervalued business and say, oh, the market has not yet understood that this business is worth more than this, so let me come into this business now while it is undervalued. And by the time the market recognizes the fact that this price should be higher than this, I'm already plugged in and I can make money. My advice to people is to, even if you want to speculate, because there's also speculation, even in the stock market. So let me give you an example of a speculative circumstance.
Tell me, please.
So somebody said a particular company belongs to is led or is founded and run by someone who is connected to let's say to the president. I'm just using the president as an example. So he believes that because of that relationship, that business is likely to get some favors. Favors could not necessarily be that you pump money into it. No, it could be that you might get some approvals easier than it otherwise will have gotten it. And I say, okay, because of that, this company is going to do well. Now you're speculating. Suppose you think that
like a Trump and Elon relationship. Tesla.
By the way, that's a very interesting discussion. That guy is a trillionaire, as it were. It is not a coincidence that the richest people in the world have a chunk of their wealth in stock. There is nobody across the world who is in that list up there that does not have a chunk of their wealth in stock of companies. So it should send a message across to us that stock is a viable, dependable, sustainable component of wealth. And anybody who is desirous of building wealth must consider stock as part of that mix. So I tell people, if you want to play fundamental vis-a-vis speculative, at least ensure that you bring that popular 80-20 rule to the table and say 80% of my money will go into stock with fundamental. The beautiful thing about stock with fundamental is there may be seasons when you may see lost in price. So, lost in price, the guy was 100 naira, then it became 90 or 80. With stock with fundamentals, even when they lose market price, they will eventually still go back. Because the fundamentals, the business, is strong. So, for an investor who is not just someone who wants to make a quickie on the exchange, is not bothered about that. He doesn't get moved. That this company has lost 10 naira on 10% on the exchange, because he knows that in the medium to long term, that business will recover and will turn in good numbers, both in capital appreciation as well as dividend for them. Now, put 80% in that, and then you can play around with your remaining 20% if you want to speculate. The problem with speculation is you may end up in a stock that looks like, this is where everybody is going now. Let me also join them and go into it. You go into it, but you may also get stuck in it. And you may even want to get out, and there's not enough liquidity. That's when you suddenly find out that, there's not enough liquidity. I want to sell now. Why is nobody buying? Or the people who are buying are pricing it low on the exchange. So while you can make quick, good money on speculation, you may also get caught up in it. You may lose money and may never recover the value that it lost. But that is not with fundamental stock. So the choice. And there are people who don't even do anything speculative.
100%
fundamental. They just look at it. What are the fundamental stock in this segment, this segment? They diversify and they key into those fundamental stock and they stay there. Stock will make you, you could double, you could triple your wealth in the stock market, easy. And a very good example in this market was Aradel.
Wow.
The Aradel magic. In 2023, Aradel was not on the NGX.
Yeah.
It was on the NASD. It was about 600 and something naira. 600 naira plus. That same Aradel went all the way to touch almost 10,000 naira a stock. So close your eyes for a bit.
When was on the NASD?
Yes. Before it was now reconstructed, brought to the NGX.
Introduction by listing by
introduction.
Yeah.
So if somebody had keyed into Aradel when it was, let's even say you missed the 600 naira train, you key in when it was 1,000 naira, and you exited when it was 9,000 plus, you went like 10 times within that period. It was literally what people would say on the street, ritual money. That was the kind of return that people made on stock like that. So my take is always, look, as far as you're building wealth, or you're trying to create savings that is more sustainable and can provide you with higher returns, stock is one thing you cannot afford to ignore.
Stock is one thing you cannot afford to ignore. Our parents said a bit of that. But the outcome, the results, is what is making a lot of these Gen Zs. It has created a lot of phobia towards stocks because of what they saw their parents went through. So I'll give you classic examples. We have parents that invested, even people in the markets, they invested in stocks in 2006, 2005. Still the same Nigeria.
Yeah.
And the whole, I don't know what happened in 2008. I don't know whether it was a global crash that affected, and all those things. And I'm going to give you a classic scenario. So I have a member of the family who invested heavily in some stocks, and this was way back 2004, and just did for the kids, and went to check it out, and guess what? It was less than 100,000 naira.
Wow.
For almost 20 years. So you're like, what real value? Even inflation from 2006 till now. So what really happened? So that
you see, there was a crash in the market.
When?
That was 2008, 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, there were fundamental regulatory failures in those seasons. This is the way a friend of mine described what was going on the exchange in that season.
Yeah.
You know, a game of darts where you have something fixed on the board, on the wall,
Yeah.
and you have your darts, and you're throwing those darts, trying to hit the bull's eye on the wall. He said suddenly, the bull eye is where you're really supposed to make money. So it involves proper targeting, understanding the game, Yeah. He said the entire board became the bull eye. So whatever you throw, you will hit the bull eye. That was what the market became then. Whatever you bought, everybody was just making money. There was no analysis going on. All stock were just appreciating everything was going in one direction. It was an anomaly. The regulator of that season should have paid close attention to what was going on. That this is not how markets run. No, something is going on here that is not proper. That wasn't proper.
What was going on?
It was speculation. Speculation with manipulation. So people were manipulating the market. People were just speculating on the market and nothing. The prices that we saw rising were not real. They were not based on any fundamental. Anything and everything was rising. Number two, which is closely associated with why some of those rising was going on. A lot of people had access to margin loans. People were borrowing. And they were borrowing to purchase shares. A lot of, shares were going up. So everybody was borrowing.
Yeah.
And they were putting all this money in that same market. Now, margin loan was a bit new in the market. So even the people, the institutions that were giving the margin loans did not make margin calls. So normally when you give a margin loan, there are certain conditions that are attached to the stock. When those triggers happen, you're supposed to make a margin call. Nobody was watching out for any trigger. Nobody got triggered. No margin calls were made. All those loans went bad when the market crashed, of course. I remember I left unemployment for another one. Yeah. And I had collected my bonus from the previous place. And I put the entire bonus, which was good money. I think it was like 5 million naira or something. It was good money then in stock. That 5 million naira literally disappeared. In fact, one of the stock that I bought in those years, I wasn't the only one that bought it. Plenty of people bought it. When the bank went under, we all lost money. The stock,
even the deposit,
the stock became paper. The certificate was useless. Meanwhile, as at the time what we bought had become paper, we were still paying back the loan. So we had no stock, but we had a loan that we were still paying back. So I understand the crisis of that season, and it was global. It was across the entire world. But then the world learned from that season, and the world moved on. America moved on, Asia moved on, Europe moved on. It affected everybody. And Nigeria must also move on. It took us a while to begin to retool and decided to move on. But we have moved on now, just that we have not moved as fast as I would have loved to see. A lot of people that lost money in that season still have not come back to the market.
Yeah.
Unlike
PTSD.
Other markets, like the America, like the Europe, like Asia, people lost money too. But they have taken the lessons of that season. Regulators have taken the lessons. Operators have taken the lessons. Investors have taken the lessons. And everybody has moved on. The regulatory space today is totally different from what it used to be. In fact, you come to the exchange today and you're trying to play some games, you'll be suspended. What is this? They will freeze the share. You can't trade in that share. So regulators are more on top of their game, watching what is going on, and not afraid to impose sanctions where sanctions are necessary. So for the people who ran away in that season, let me add myself to that number because I also ran away in that season. It is time to come back. It is time to come back. The market is a lot more better reformed and the opportunities are huge.
The opportunities are huge. I love that. Dangote Refinery, conversations around IPO. He's been very vocal. He's been the chief marketing officer of his entire brand.
He is. He is.
And I've never seen him in this light in the last 2 years. Dangote is always known to be this person, reserved, soft-spoken, but he's been fierce. We've seen the doggedness of a real businessman. Let's talk about the IPOs. What are your takes about it? How should Nigerians approach it? Do you believe it's a wealth creation vehicle? What's your take about the IPO in general?
The refinery business.
Yeah.
By
the way, you played in the oil and gas sector for a long time. So
I was.
Tell us about the Dangote Refinery and how it's instrumental.
And when I was still in the oil and gas industry, there were serious-minded players who believed that it will never happen. And they had their reason that, the Dangote thing, I won't mention names, of course.
Okay.
But they had their reasons, and their reasons were not reasons that you can discount.
What were the reasons?
Number one was the framework for operating a refinery in an industry or in a country where there is fuel subsidy. Now, the subsidy regime has a lot of graft around it. Serious corruption is involved with the subsidy regime. And it is dependent on the government. So, let me give you an instance.
Please do.
Sometimes in 2016, government has asked importers, oil downstream people, that please go ahead and import for the country.
Yeah.
We know that there is volatility. We will pay you whatever you suffer.
Yeah.
In terms of, by virtue of the volatility in the currency, we'll pay you. And people did. Including some of those firms that including the one that I worked with, who imported. People also incur losses on those importation.
Why?
Because the foreign exchange moved against them.
Okay.
And since the government said, I will pay you, no problem. So this is what happened in that season. When it was time to pay, the payment was not forthcoming. Some of the people that imported with loans in banks. Banks could not call for loan. So there was certain understanding that, look, I know I'm owing you, but you also know that government promised us that they were going to carry the can.
And they've not paid.
And they've not paid. So you see, we had situations in which loans that were apparently bad by definition, by prudential definition, they are bad because they're not being serviced as well as they're supposed to be serviced. But they were still being carried on the books of the banks as if they are healthy, because the banks is showing an understanding that I know that it is government that is owing you. That is why you have not paid me. On the other hand, interest is mounting on those facilities. So you now have a situation in which at some point, some people who are very powerful and in the government and say, look, how much is the government owing you? 10 billion, Abi. Can you take 7 billion and go away? And they will arrange it for you. You get paid. Go. They get settled. Yeah. Government gets something. Everybody is happy in that season. Now, we cannot continue to run and so people who believe that this thing will not happen, that the Dangote will not happen, that is part of their reason. Now look, in a sector that runs in this way, man, forget this thing. This is just a joke. It's not going to happen. They won't allow it to happen. But it happened because government eventually, after 13 years, was able to pass the PIB into law. And that solved part of the problem. Government, after such a long time, was eventually able to say, I'm removing, the popular subsidy is gone. There were some people who even said it was just a scheme for people in government and, working with Dangote to, do some games and take some money out, that it won't produce anything. And they would tell you some similar projects that, well, pure government project like the steel companies. That how many bars of iron has ever come out of Ajaokuta since the 70s when it has been built? And they will be right when they make those propositions.
Why do you think so?
Why do I think that?
That Ajaokuta, why is Ajaokuta still the way it is?
I think
what are people benefiting from that? What do you think?
Of course, people are getting salary without working. So if it is owned by government, there are workers that are there. There is an annual budget that goes there. So those budgets still get spent, whether steel is produced or steel is not produced. Ajaokuta is a very huge project. Literally anybody and everybody that I knew that have seen the project would literally marvel at the scale and the dreams of the people who started that initiative. At the same time, it appears there were certain fundamental errors right from the beginning. There are people who said that there is a disconnect between what was supposed to be the source of raw material that will feed those furnaces that are there. So the quality of the iron ore is not right. The connection between the iron ore place and all sort of issues around that. There are also people who said, look, the technology right from day one was obsolete. The problem with that will be that even if you try to produce, you cannot produce competitively. It's like trying to run these our refineries now and compare what will come out of it with what will come out with from.
Don't worry.
So it won't be able. So and I guess because of the Diziani cried visiting Ajaokuta to see the size of what is wasting here. Now, sometimes you might have to cut your losses. I don't think we have learned the capacity, we have imbibed that capacity to cut our losses and move on as a people, as our government. So sometimes you just need to bite the bullet and say, look, I can't run this thing. So what can I do? Can I hand it over? Can I sell it? And move on. We have not been able to deal with that the same way we have not been able to deal with it in our refineries. Some of those businesses, we have to own up to ourselves that the public sector has not shown capacity to run them.
So you think the government doesn't have the capacity to run LMA Refinery, doesn't have the capacity to run Port Harcourt Refinery and Warri Refinery and some of these other refineries?
It cannot run them. It cannot run them. We should just have like they say on the street, the lever, to confront these realities and get out of those businesses. Even if we still want to have stake, we can have stake, but not to own them. We don't need to own them. Let the private sector take over those things. And, I wish that the late Yaradua did not reverse OBJ's sale of the Port Harcourt Refinery. Today, we will have been able to compare what has become of the Port Harcourt Refinery vis-a-vis the other refineries that were not sold to the private sector. And come to think of it, since that reversal, all of them have remained with government. How many liters of fuel have come out from them? And those are the real confirmation that we can't do these things. We can't. We are just deceiving ourselves. Let's be able to walk away from it. The same thing applies to a project as huge as Ajaokuta. All the contemporaries, all the other similar or ancillary ones, the Alaja, the whatever, they are all dead now. They are all dead. And they are not of the scale of Ajaokuta. Ajaokuta is super, mega. We can't run them. Those are the evidences. They are there right before our nose that government cannot do it. So the Dangote refinery, it's such a nice thing to be able to hear that we did this for Europe last month. Unbelievable. Oh, but eventually, what they say will not happen. And my slogan is, what government cannot do, Dangote can. And he has shown it with the birth of that refinery. Government has not been able to show that it can make a refinery work. Since our refineries went comatose decades ago, they have remained in that state of heavy capacity underutilization. Sometimes zero utilization. So he has done what we thought was impossible, and he had gone commercial with it. And today we are refining product in-house, in country.
The fear of many Nigerians is anchored on his antecedent.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. That's the fear of... The woman on the streets understands the concept of monopoly because of Dangote. And I tell you the truth. And that is the greatest fear. Do you also share the same sentiment? And you share the same sentiment?
I share this. I have fears. I have concerns about monopolies because the holders of monopoly power can exercise it against the people for personal profits. And in a country where we don't have a strong, should I call it regulatory or antitrust laws, it becomes even more worrisome. In some other countries where there is strong antitrust framework, those antitrust framework have a way of checkmating excesses of monopolists, but we don't have it here. So we must ensure that we are able to support other players into that space. I'm delighted to hear about what BUA is trying to do.
What are they trying to do?
Build a refinery. And they're not going to build all the 2-gallon refinery all over the whole place. It's going to be mega as well. That will be good. There are other refineries, the refining of petrol in particular is a challenge because the technology involves a lot more than to do the other fractions. So the people who are going into petrol must be ready to make that additional investment to do petrol and to do it profitably. So the Aradel of this world, the Walter Smiths, and a few others are also going into that refining space. But I'm not sure that the capacity of those ones are big enough right now, but they can always scale up. So what we need to do is probably encourage more of the BUA, of the Aradel, of the Walter Smith to scale up and compete. As far as government refinery is concerned, for as long as it is government that will run them, they will never be able to compete. In fact, they may never produce. But if government is willing to let go via certain things that, certain arrangement that hands over operationalization into the private sector, we might come up with something good with those refineries to add to the pool and reduce the fear of monopoly, or moderate that monopolistic tendencies. And that will be better for everybody.
So, how does the oil industry work? I'm asking this because of something that happened in February.
Okay.
Iran, US, Israel, Strait of Hormuz, everything. These were things that we never in any way believed would affect but the woman in Balogun Market or the man selling electronics in Alaba International. These people, it was like a G8 thing.
We didn't see it coming.
Yes, we didn't see it coming. So explain Oil is really it's in the fabric of the Nigerian economy. And how does it work? Just explain it.
Oil is the core of energy sources across the world. Of course, there has been a lot of campaign against fossil fuel there's a word for it. Anyway, moving from fossil into renewables and other transition. But in spite of all that transitioning issues, the chunk of the world energy is still fossil fuel and it's oil and gas. Therefore, whatsoever that affects oil and gas supply or logistics or production across the world has an impact across the world. It's a single market. It's a market. So I remember as an argument I had with some people at some point who said, America doesn't need oil from the Strait of Hormuz, so it won't affect America. I said, for real? It is a poor understanding of how the market works.
How does it work?
Now, let's say oil let's assume, just for discussion purpose, that
please.
Oil in the international market moved from $60 a barrel to $100. And we're saying that America is the topmost producer in the world.
Yeah.
Let's say it is self-sufficient.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to import from anywhere. So a producer in America, who is a private person, will sell his oil at $60 to America when he can get $100 for it in the international market?
Oh.
He will not. So, and that is at the heart of the problem. It is one market looking at opportunities globally.
Yeah.
And that is why we see all those crude prices being rolled out literally on a daily basis. In fact, intraday prices are there for anybody to see. So the same way it pinched other parts of the world, it also pinched America. Up to 50% increase in price in the U.S. And Canada. Canada is also another major producer. But I saw even my Nigerian friend who have jackpot, who will be taking pictures of how much they were buying fuel in Canada, because it went up dramatically as well. So it's a single market, and because oil and gas is at the heart of the world energy supply, whatever affects it affects the entire globe. It might have pinched some people more than the other. Some people might have been more prepared more than the other, but it still pinched everybody. In spite of...
You think we were prepared?
We? You mean Nigeria?
Yeah.
I don't think we were prepared.
Despite Dangote?
Dangote itself was still importing a chunk of his own crude.
But why? Don't we have enough to supply?
We don't have enough to supply him. We had commitment. Number one, we're not producing enough. So we're a country that had gone literally on the edge of 2.5 million barrels per day in some decades ago, only for us to be dancing around 1.5, 1.4. That's like 1 million barrels less per day. So production, we're not top-notch. For so many years, we were unable to meet our OPEC quota. Recently, I think we met it in a couple of months. We went back again. So production is not top-notch. We lost steam in the many years that we allowed PIB to stay in the National Assembly without becoming an act of parliament. Investments were not being made when they're supposed to be made. So we're just playing a catch-up as it is. So we also had loans for which some commitments in crude might have been made. So, and once you have committed it, you have to meet your obligation. These are non-discretionary. It doesn't lie with you. You have made a commitment, you meet your commitment when the call is made. So Dangote was importing crude. Because it was importing, the price will automatically affect Dangote as well. Even if
he was getting it from here.
He was getting it from here, there will still be an elevated price.
Why?
Because there's an opportunity cost. So the seller here, who can sell at a higher price, including government now. Government also has its own crude, yeah? Including the government. Government now has to make a decision. Should I pass this oil at $60, or should I sell it at $100 in the international market? Now, that is not as easy a decision to make as some people might think. They say, since it's for the benefit of the people, because it's a backdoor subsidy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a backdoor subsidy. But it's a better subsidy than subsidy at the pump. Because you are more or less now subsidizing production, as it were, by passing on, the crude at a lesser price, as opposed to subsidizing consumption at the pump. But all the same, like I said, it's not such an easy decision to say, I have a product I can make $100 on, but I will sell it for $60.
The government made more money based on the price of oil. It
Definitely.
was way beyond our oil benchmark. So for those who are listening, we have budgets 2025, 2026. I think we're still running on
2026.
We're still running on 2025 budget, by the way. So now for every budget, there's always an oil benchmark.
Correct.
The price of oil was trading above the oil benchmark.
Well above
the oil benchmark.
Correct.
Meaning that it was a time of a lot more income.
Correct.
It was like your 13th month.
It should have been a time of much more income.
But why didn't we feel it?
I'm not sure we make much more income.
Why? But look at it. It's open. We're seeing the prices.
We definitely made more.
Nigerians are asking.
We made more income, but definitely it doesn't appear as if it is much more income because we were not ready. For us to have been able to make much more, our production should have been top notch. Production wasn't. It wasn't. So, but still at the same level of production, or even at a reduced production, but with an increased price per barrel, we definitely made some more money. And it will have helped us because we are fighting on so many fronts. One of it is we must continue to retain the stability of the exchange rate. We must also ensure that our reserves will help in that direction. So we can't afford to run down the reserves. In fact, once observers start to know that, your reserve is crashing, they start to price that risk into any commercial activities that involves you. And it might also start to impinge on your ability to maintain the stability of the foreign exchange. But we have done very well with the stability of the foreign exchange, of the exchange rate. Very well. As a matter of fact, 2025, if you look at the curve, you see that the Naira appreciated. It's not a big appreciation, but it appreciated against the dollar. This same year, too, if you look at the curve, you will see a similar pattern as it is.
So 3 years from now, or 2 years from now, do you think Nigerians will appreciate these reforms? What's your scorecard for this administration regarding the economy?
We didn't finish the talk about the IPO.
Oh, yes.
I think the IPO is a good idea.
Yeah.
And that it will be oversubscribed. The refining business is more like a utility now because we must buy the product. It's a must consume.
Yeah.
Because of that, sustainability of revenue and growth is almost assured. The private placement has just been concluded.
Yeah.
Phenomenally successful.
We saw the form. Someone leaked it.
Yeah, it was phenomenally successful.
Yeah.
So there is no doubt also. In fact, the number of investors, even outside Nigeria, that, in our own client base, for example, you get all the calls saying, please keep me updated about this IPO. I'm interested in this IPO. We have people who have other investments that are mature. And I say, look, you people should just keep those investments with you for now because I'm keeping it for Dangote Refinery.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that is across all investment houses, banks, and all the rest. From within, interest from within Nigeria and from outside of Nigeria. So it's going to be a one-time event in history as far as IPOs in Nigeria, or maybe even IPO in Africa is concerned. It's likely to be multiple listing, it will be sold across multiple markets in Africa, maybe even outside of Africa. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and everybody is looking forward to it sometimes in September.
I'm asking this question for somebody who's just watching and doesn't understand. What is IPO?
Initial public offer.
Yeah.
That is the first time that a business is inviting members of the public to come and be part owners of that business. And how do you become part owner? You buy shares of that company. So essentially, Dangote Refinery in September is asking members of the public, Nigerians, and even non-Nigerians, to come and be part owners of the Dangote Refinery. That's essentially what it is.
Historic. And all of this happening, one in Africa, one across the world. SpaceX, Dangote in the picture as well. There's a lot of money going into the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are saying we're most likely going to hit a bubble. Do you agree?
If
like you said, your analogy of the entire dart being the
entire ball, we have been the bullseye.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to hit a bubble? There's a lot of excitement. Look at the NGX, 61%. Last year, 51%. Dangote Refinery, it's also going to catapult the entire market. So
let me
I'm saying this because
make
of
a
the
logical
rule.
argument. Now, this is not fundamental analysis of a stock.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just bringing logic into this.
All right, please.
Now, so let's say we have a company whose share price was 500 naira a share in 2023. It was 500 naira a share. 500 naira then, let's assume it was $1.
Okay, true.
Now, that same company is still a very strong company. Its prospect is great. It's doing well. It's posting profit. It's paying dividends. So nothing has happened to its fundamental. So the question is, but interestingly, that $1 has now become 1,300 naira. Why should the share price of that company remain at 500 naira? Like I said, it is not fundamental analysis from a securities perspective. It's just logic.
So you're saying they're trying to catch up with the reforms?
It should reflect. It should reflect. Ordinarily, what economists would say, ceteris paribus. The same business is still the same business. It is still properly run. The prospects are still huge. Why should that? Because if you remain at 500 naira, what has happened to the price is that price, when you convert that 500 naira to dollar, they probably will now give you how much? Maybe less than whatever dollar.
Yeah, like 50 cents.
But the prospect of the company is great. Why should it lose stock price in dollar terms? It shouldn't. So it is expected that logically those prices should move up. But what is more important, which is coming to the fundamentals, is that the companies are actually fundamentally doing better. So you look at when MTN first of all spoke about this recovery, and we saw that first profit come out, there are people who said, "Oh, it is just because they increased the tariff." Yes, the tariff was increased, therefore their revenue and their profitability increased. But it wasn't just that. it was also that even in the midst of all this complaint, Nigerians are consuming more data. Not just in terms of naira now, but in terms of the volume of data that we are consuming. Everybody has become, everybody is on social media. Everybody is doing TikTok. They are recording. They are consuming more data. So there is more consumption. Apart from the increase in tariff, there is also increase in consumption of some of those things. And you see elements of that across industries as well. By the way, banks now.
Yeah, banks have been crazy.
You know, they made super profit. Well, all of us were crying in those 2023.
They were
the only people that were making money.
Is that why we had the windfall?
That was when the windfall.
Windfall tax.
Yeah, but there's windfall tax this time, this 2025. So a lot of them had to part with windfall tax. And then when you now look at their numbers, you can see the adjustment. All those mega gains from foreign exchange are disappeared. So banks are back to their core businesses. They are not just back to their core businesses, they have also now raised mega capital. In this market, over 4 trillion naira were raised in capital by banks. They should be able to do more, so the prospects are huge. There is also, I believe, the regulators are on top of this. We've been here before. When banks raised money and they did not put the money to proper use, it was part of the problem of that season that we spoke about. That 2008
crash.
Yeah. So people raised a whole lot of money. And when you look at the books of some banks and you saw what this money went into, it was sad. And it led to a bubble, which eventually burst. And everybody was in crisis, as it were. But I am delighted about what I think is a regulatory environment right now.
Yeah,
it's as if the governor is on top of his game. It's on top of his game. And if anybody is in doubt about that, just look at the stability that has been brought into the naira exchange rate.
So, a quick one. What would you do if you were 25 today and you had to start over again?
The things I know now, if I had known them when I was 25. The power of compounding. It's one of the most important things that everybody should know. And it might be something that will push us in the direction of investment. There used to be this thing on social media some times ago. I've not seen it for a while now, where the whole idea of that post was to show the power of compound interest. How something that is small is invested and it makes a return, and then the principal plus that return is also invested, and then the principal plus return and return is also invested. When you see what that will become as a chain effect over a period of time, if I knew what I know now when I was 25, I will retire. I will retire today. I will retire today.
What do you know now?
What I know now includes the fact that challenges are opportunities. If they put you in an environment where all the problems have been solved, thriving becomes a problem. What are you going to do for them? They've solved all the problems now. But an environment where there is a lot of problems represents a lot of opportunities. And the market will reward people who can come up with solutions to those problems. My wife is a business person. And I remember some years ago, if you go to a shop, you will see those POSs. You will take them. After a while, she will abandon them. Why? Because there were almost always reconciliation issues. There was issues around, I've paid, you've not paid, you cannot leave. Let me see the money come into my account. And it was problems. That was a problem somebody solved with some of this, I just don't want to mention names. Yeah, of this world. That as you are doing the transaction, the guy is receiving the transaction and you can walk away. I bought books in the traffic in Lagos on Third Mainland Bridge. I saw a novel, a particular author that I liked. I saw the guy that was selling it in the traffic. But when I look for my wallet, I found out I've left my wallet in the office. I said, oh boy, sorry. I wanted to buy it, but as I was just looking for my wallet, but I can't find it. He said they collect transfer now. And right on Third Mainland Bridge, we did the deal. I got the book, he got the money right there. So the challenges are opportunities, solving problem, the markets will reward you. That is number one. Number two is that I did not pay enough attention to the power of compounding. Some of the money that we have wasted as young people and all the rest could have closed my eyes and stashed some of them away in instruments where they will continue to generate money forever.
Like which instrument? You mentioned stocks?
Mutual funds of this world, the venture stock. I could have done even the normal. I could have stayed long in equity. Yes. Bonds. Mutual fund. There are all sort of things that were available that people could put money in. Even real estate. Young people, of course, you must. There's an age when you want to do certain things.
Yeah, you want shop life now.
You don't want shop life. And nobody should take that away from anybody.
Yeah, true.
But there must be an understanding that in the midst of all of this, I can also invest. And those things that you put away, not in savings account or current account where you can go there tomorrow and easily pull it out.
Yeah.
But you keep away. They stay away. And over the years, you'll be amazed at what they have turned into. A 25-year-old who comes into an averagely paying job can become financially free by the time he's 40.
If they do all this.
If they do what they're supposed to do, become financially free. So that when he's working, after that, he's working at his own pleasure because he wants to work, not because if they sack me today, I no go fit pay my rent. It will be solid.
So we're about to leave now. I would love you to chime in your thoughts on what is happening in the global economy. US, China, economic war. War is now more economic than military. And we're seeing the BRICS nation trying to stifle the growth of Americans.
I like the way you put it.
Yeah. China in the mix, US here, Israel.
I don't see the stifling by BRICS the way you see it.
You don't see
I
that?
think they're trying to get freedom. Those are two different things.
Okay.
They are not out to stop America from growing.
Yeah.
They are out to set themselves freer from the shackles that the American hegemony has conferred upon everybody.
So do you think that America is losing its grip over the world? Economically?
It is. America is. It will take a long time. America remains the world's largest economy by far. But what is going on will eventually is spreading the wealth. And the nearest guy, of course, is China. And China is not stopping anytime soon. The geopolitics, I think eyes are getting more opened to the intricacies around geopolitics, even issues around wars and how they are closely tied to economies. So when you flash back at what has happened in Venezuela, was it exactly for the love of democracy in Venezuela? Was that the deal? You know, there was a talk about Greenland at some point. And Greenland has gone silent. But before the silence, there was a rare earth mineral agreement with the US. And everything has gone calm. Even the interest in Iran, there are people who are saying, is it exactly about democracy and nuclear weapons? Is that what it is about?
So what is
or
it
there
about?
is more? Because there could indeed be more. How come some of these locations have something? Venezuela has oil. Iran has oil. The other, Iran's brother, Iraq, also had oil. Is it a coincidence? Libya also has oil. Is it a coincidence that the wars are following the resources? Is it a coincidence? I'm not competent to wade into that level of security-related information, and I don't have access to those. But I can see I can make certain logical deduction or raise certain logical questions to say, why does it appear that the war follow resources, not the wars follow resources? Has it always been like that? Will a place like Democratic Republic of Congo ever see peace in its life? In this life? Will it? And is it about the fact that the people don't want peace? Or is it about the fact that DRC is probably the richest when it comes to minerals in Africa? So those questions are important to begin to ask, because the players are taking they are taking positions. The people who are pawns on the chess game do not even understand the geopolitics of it all. You know, people show up at your step to say, okay, I'm coming to come and rescue Christians, for example. Is it about rescuing Christians? I don't know. Do we sincerely need help with insecurity? The answer is yes. How are these insecurity matters even connected? I have looked at I read something about Chad and the problems in that axis.
Yeah.
And by the time I finished reading those information, I asked myself, did Boko Haram emerge, or it was created, or it was a creation? Because there were people who say, there was poverty, people felt this and felt that, and that was what led to. Or was it a deliberate creation? When I listened to interviews, discussions at the Congress in the U.S. about how USAID funded Boko Haram, I asked myself, these are Americans talking, this is not Nigerian accusing them, these are American, this is a Congress. And they're saying, yes, you said money was sponsoring Boko Haram. How true is it? I don't know. Are there possibilities around it? We have to consider it. What is clear, however, is that Africa is largely ignorant when it comes to geopolitics and how it connects to economy. And as long as we remain in the dark that way, we will be a victim. We will continue to be victims of the people who know better and can deploy the weapon of this geopolitics to amass to the detriment of the people who are not conscious of how geopolitics work.
What should Africa do? How does it work? What should we do?
We need to get more conscious of that. You see, even there are arguments that even in America, that the POTUS is not as powerful as it appears on the face.
Really? The president of the U.S.?
That there is an establishment, that run the show. They determine even who becomes that president. And when he becomes the president, they give him his own agenda that he must pursue. Now, that could be totally speculative. It may also not be. Because when you see certain actions of some POTUs, you are asking yourself, is it this guy really doing this? Or he's doing it because he has no option, or because somebody else has asked him to do it? It's a very complex space. As Africans, we must begin to get more conscious of the interplay of geopolitics and the economy. Otherwise, we will leave the slavery of the West. We will move into the slavery of the Orient. China is all over the whole place. I mean, these countries are thinking 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. We are thinking 4 years election cycle. To compete with that level of thinking in those other countries will take a while. So Africa need leaders who would take perspectives that are long, not the perspective of 4-year election cycle. And Africa need people who will pay attention, who will help leaders to pay attention to geopolitics. There are people who are very knowledgeable in this geopolitics and how it works. And we cannot continue to ignore these things. Otherwise, we will just be firing blanks, shooting blindly. And it will be difficult for the potential of these countries to be realized, because there are other watchers from outside of these countries who know more than we know about ourselves. Yes. Especially in this age of technology. We know what... I don't know whether I've told you this story before. I attended a conference in a city called Prague. Some years ago, it was an IFC conference. And there was one of the guys that, delivered some this keynote speech or whatever, lectures there, had said that, look, that it was possible for his bank to determine that a client is about to have a divorce.
Wow.
And people said, how could that be? He said, because data, aggregation of data, analysis of data, could establish certain patterns of behavior over time about people that eventually do certain acts. And therefore, when they see the pattern that has been established for people that eventually divorce, their own client that eventually divorced, it is possible for them to identify that, Mr. Claudius, something is going on with him. He might eventually divorce his wife. So they are prepared for certain things. Maybe they do some wealth management for that. So they are prepared. In fact, they can even offer certain services for those kind of people. So when we live in a world like that, when we live in a world where Mark Zuckerberg can wake up from America one day, get into this country, does not go to Aso Rock, did not go to the governor of Lagos State, went to streets on Sabo and started to enter cyber cafes and talk to people and watch what is going on, it shows the extent to which activities that are very remote can be monitored or can be seen.
So you're saying, in essence, data is the new oil.
That is the new oil.
So
it is scary.
Why are we building infrastructure for oil and not building infrastructure for data to position for the future?
It will still take a time. Transition takes time.
Okay.
Transition takes time. And don't forget, as a matter of fact, part of what Elon said he was going to do was data center in space, or maybe it's on the moon. So, and even colonies on the moons and on the Mars, over time. But essentially, we live in a world where we say technology is very important. We've not seen how important it is. So it is going to drive literally everything, including even the oil. Yeah, everything. Now, everybody's talking about AI, and we'll be asking ourselves as a nation, do we have an AI strategy? As anybody who's running an institution, most of us go, so every day I ask myself, what is our AI? And we are taking steps to have an AI strategy. Because if you listen also to what Elon Musk is saying, there was a recent publication of, I think it was an interview, where he was talking about the jobs that will endure and the jobs that might not endure into the future.
Which are they? Can you share?
He says, you see, the jobs that require you to use your hand, there will always be a need for an electrician.
Plumber.
A plumber. But there are some other jobs. For example, consulting firms now are not hiring much at the entry level, because the entry level job can be done by technology.
Yeah.
So any job that involves routine, any job that involves gathering of information, any job that is about analysis, a lot of those jobs are threatened as we speak, including some very old jobs that we have known as, this profession, that profession. A lot of them will suffer massively in the hand of AI.
There's a lot for us to talk about. Well, we're definitely going to have a part 2. We're definitely going to have a part 2. You run companies. You are at the pinnacle of the African boy's dream in this part of the world. While we're rounding off, tell us about what are the qualities that helps one rise from the bottom to the top in the corporate world.
Okay. I have a favorite quote.
Yeah.
It was by Steve Jobs. It might be a bit of a paraphrase, but he asked people to stay foolish, stay hungry. Now, he doesn't mean it in the literal sense of being foolish or hungry. Foolish is being able to understand how little you know. As a matter of fact, the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know much. So the curiosity, that knowledge that I don't know much, should create in you a hunger, which is why I say you stay hungry to want to know. So as you identify that you don't know much, as you develop a hunger to know more, you will be able to shape your life in the direction that will guarantee you what you have defined as success. But if you don't know and you don't chase up on knowing, then you might, that success, whatever you have defined as your own success, and the success is different for everybody anyway, may just remain a mirage. So now that the world is changing rapidly and people are asking, where is the next thing? What is the next big thing?
Yeah.
Are you also asking? And are you positioning yourself to be in that next big thing? So that you're not spending 4 years to do a course in religious studies, when the world is not looking for too many religious studies people, and then you come out and say, I'm not getting a job. Can we begin to tailor ourselves more towards our passion and what our world desires, or what our world is looking for, so that there is nothing as beautiful as that. It's like people...
Demand and supply.
Demand and supply. Some people will literally play football for free, but they are now playing it and earning money. And any successful footballer that you see out there, anyone whatsoever, must have been involved in honing his skills, much as it is. Learning to know that I'm a fine free kick taker, but that there is more to know about free kick taking and that I'm going to invest in that. So always keeping yourself at the edge of that hunger will help to deliver you at your success destination, whatever success means to you.
Mr. Gbolahan Olojede, thank you. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
We're definitely going to have a part 2 of this.
Yeah, look forward to
we're
that.
definitely going to have a part 2 of this. Your journey has been short of inspiring, like way more than inspiring.
Thanks. I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Way more than inspiring, which demands a part 2. I'm sure a lot of the viewers will love to see you again, and maybe perhaps just chime in on the way forward for our economy and what Nigeria needs to do to be able to relieve ourselves of the stress of these reforms.
Well, I thought we have rounded up.
Yeah, we have actually. Yeah, we have.
Well, I think there has to be a change of mind or mindset in several areas, and that includes the negativities. I understand that the environment in itself does not lend itself to a whole lot of positive things.
Yeah, true.
But when we look closely, we're able to see that there are positive things that are happening as well in the midst of all of this. We have spoken about some of those positive things here today, and that people should learn to gravitate and be part of those positive parts, while we all owe a joint responsibility to continue to campaign for a change in all those negative areas of about this. There's nowhere like this country for people who are citizens and who have only this country to be theirs. Every time I look at or I see certain incidences about people out, Nigerians who are also outside of the country, it makes me, re-emphasize that reality that the real challenge is for us to build our own country into what we like to see. Running away to those places doesn't solve the problem. Typically, a Nigerian who migrates as an adult only migrates the body. Their minds never leave this country. Never. Most of the news that I hear on daily basis are from my friends. News about Nigeria I'm talking about now. They are from my friends who have migrated, who are abroad. Even before I get to hear the news, they know the news.
Yeah.
Which shows where their mind really is. Yes. For those who were born there, okay, you've never tasted Nigeria, you don't know what it feels like, it might be easier for them.
Yeah, true.
But for those who migrated as an adult, even after they are very successful where they are, their mind is still here. And the challenge is, let's be able to build this place so that if for whatever reason you get tired of being there, you have a place to come back to.
So we have a culture of who do you want to see on this famous couch? Mention one person who you really admire so much and does a lot of stuff, a lot of great stuff in the Nigerian and maybe global business landscape that you want to see on the Frankly Business podcast.
I would like you to.
And you ask the person a question.
I don't want to mention it, but I want you to bring an artificial intelligence person to come and speak to that space.
Okay.
Our world is changing faster than we think. It's changing so much faster than we think.
Yeah.
And I am not seeing it that a lot of us are conscious of this reality.
Okay.
So an AI person
Yeah.
who can speak to the transformation that is changing and what we need to begin to do
Okay.
will help a great deal.
All right. The world is changing. You've heard it. It's been a great one from Gbolahan Olojede. Thank you very much. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.